Los Angeles, I'm and most Hollywood nights. She goes to California, oh, California.
What you say about Los Angeles?
LA got the people saying,
You're listening to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. It's time for another episode of Corner of the Galaxy from the Box, the show that gets you behind the scenes of the LA Galaxy and into the minds of soccer reporters and MLS experts. Your hosts for the day are Corner of the Galaxy's Josh Guesman and LA Times soccer reporter Kevin Baxter. Let's start the show.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Corner of the Galaxy from the Box on cornerofthegalaxy.com. I'm your host, Josh Guesman, coming to you on a Monday, November 25th. LA Galaxy 6-2 winners over Minnesota. A rolling freight train down the line. Minnesota tried to cross in front of it and got completely smashed. I don't know what we're seeing from this LA Galaxy team. I'm going to try to put it in perspective during the show, but I'm not sure we even have an understanding of what we are seeing. So, we're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk about the Seattle Sounders game coming up. So there's a bunch to get to, and early warning, only show of the week. It's on Monday because we got Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving to all of our listeners, all you fun people. To help me about looking at this wonderful game the Galaxy played, 6-2 win, is Kevin the Panda Baxter. Kev, how you doing, bud?
Hey, I misspoke earlier. I now have 51 followers on Blue Sky, which is one for every goal the Galaxy scored against Minnesota.
It feels that way, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm also on Blue Sky. I should point out at Galaxy Podcast. You can go over there and find us there. I'm also on what's the other one? Let's see, we got
X.
Yeah, but then there's the other one too. I can't even remember now. See, this is how bad it's getting. It's getting so fragmented. But yes, on X, on Blue Sky, on the Instagram one, whatever that one is, and I'm there too. So yeah, you can follow us. Pretty much all the social media places we are there. It feels like we were at a game last night, Kevin. Actually, the funny thing is, we were home by this time yesterday, although it still felt like it was a night game whenever I left. I considered it was like 11 o'clock at night. I'm sure it's 11 o'clock at night by the time I get home, 11:30, that type of thing, and it was still pretty early.
Well, you talk about wanting to find perspective. Gabriel Peck told us he couldn't wait to get home to watch the replay of his goal.
Said that.
He wasn't sure how he scored on that.
Oh, man.
The second one. The first one, I mean, he was just unstoppable. 2 goals, he had to kind of tell us which one he was talking about because they were both fantastic. I thought the first goal in the 27th second was amazing, just the way he was not to be denied. But we'll talk about, but you have to appreciate that second goal. You have to watch it over and over and over again.
I have.
There's so much to it.
I don't know, and I know some of our fans have listened. I know that today was spent, doing some work if you had to go to work today, but like there's a little side corner over there, and you just had the YouTube replay, the highlights playing over and over again so you could watch every single one. The Galaxy put their field view of some of the goals that they had out there as well. Watched that a couple hundred times, that type of thing. One is, from the field view, I realized something I didn't realize before, and we can talk about that as we sort of go along and take a look at it. But just a weird weekend, a weird fun weekend, certainly for the LA Galaxy. Saturday was upset day, and then Sunday was, the home teams take care of business. And I often wonder, Greg Vanney said, and we gave everybody homework. We told everybody that you needed to have, that they needed to watch the games, right? And it was about Greg Vanney wanted the guys to watch the games because he wanted them to get into the game, right? He wanted them to understand what was going on. And so I think there was an advantage to that because if you were the LA Galaxy, then you got to watch some of the games going on. The first one, New York City hosting Red Bulls. So the New York Derby there, what, do they call it the Hudson River Derby? Is that what they call it? I can't remember what.
It doesn't matter. They played it at a baseball field.
They did, at Citi Field. Which is different than playing it at Yankee Stadium, which is different than playing at Red Bull Arena, where I think New York City had the best record of any of the stadiums that they had played at. But of course, they wouldn't play it at the home site of the other team they're playing. So they played on postage stamp, and Red Bulls came out there and just smack New York City across the face 2-0. That was the first upset. And by the way, if you're wondering about looking at the teams that are hot, to me, Red Bulls are way hotter than Orlando right now, and I would almost bet that you could possibly get a New York LA matchup. If we're going to go that far, we're not there yet. Job's not finished, as I've been seeing everybody tweet out and do all that stuff. So you saw that one. The one, of course, though, Kevin, that we got asked the most about whenever we got to the stadium, almost immediately by anybody we talked to, was the LAFC versus Seattle game. Seattle winning that game in extra time. Watching Jordan Morris cause more havoc for LA teams is always an interesting look and an interesting take. But I have to wonder if the LA Galaxy, watching that game, saw, one, the ability of a defensive team to bunker, to cause problems, and to scratch out a victory. I was listening to some pregame before the Orlando-Atlanta game, and I was listening to the commentators sort of say, in the playoffs, the best team doesn't always win, right? And I think that that's a warning for the LA Galaxy, is that you may be able to score 6 goals. You may be able to average 5 goals over your last 3 games. You may be able to do all this, and if you lose 2-1 to Seattle come Saturday, then your season's done. And so I wonder if that scared everybody just a little bit, just to see how that result went down. It was I think a surprising result, although also whenever you talk to anybody, and certainly talk to Scott French a little bit, who's covered LAFC extensively this year, and he said he was not that surprised because Brian Schmetzer and the Seattle Sounders can do things. They're just a team. Greg Vanney said after the game that Seattle is a team that is very good, and that they're a veteran team that just knows how to find wins. So I wonder if any of that sort of snuck into them before they came to the stadium that Saturday night. They're watching, and they come to the field knowing that they can't let Minnesota do what Seattle did to LAFC.
Well, I would have to say that the Galaxy certainly came out differently from LAFC. LAFC, I thought they really fell flat at the end of the season. They lost 2 of their last 3 games. They lost the second playoff game in Vancouver 3-0. They lost this game 2-1 in extra time. They didn't have a shot on goal in the first half. Seattle was playing with 2 players on the left side who had played 2 minutes combined in the playoffs. Hadn't started together all season because of injuries. They had to start those 2. LAFC came up that side throughout the first half and never managed to get a shot on goal. Now they wound up getting 10 shots on goal in the second half.
Right.
But the fact that they came out flat in a game that was an elimination game, a game they had to win, contrast that with the way the Galaxy came out. 3 goals in the first half, 1 in the first 27 seconds.
Yeah, I know. It was it's way different. So we get that. I don't know about you, but getting to the stadium, getting there early, there was I tweeted it.
A parking problem for somebody.
I had a parking problem. It was nobody's fault except for the app and my cell service that logged me out on the way up the freeway, and then whenever I got to the gate to check in, decided that it didn't want to give me the code, and then locked me out of my my ticket to get in, my parking pass. But you know what? We figured it out. It was just a longer walk than I normally have, and I'm $40 lighter. I know how that feels.
Super chat for $40. Hey, Josh's parking.
I already have a goal up there today because Super Chats is sort of doing this goal. If we get 15 Super Chats, I think they have to be $2 or higher. If we get 15 of those, I will sing a Christmas carol at the end of the thing. So we can figure out which one we want to do. And if I have to look up the words to get it correct, I will at least sing like a verse of that, just that way there's some positivity in all this.
Maybe Dan Beckerman's listening. He could chip in.
Maybe Dan. We got to talk to Dan Beckerman before and said hi. Some nice pleasantries both ways, and it was nice to talk to the president of AEG and have a little conversation. We got to talk to Tom Braun, the president of the LA Galaxy, before the game. Saw Will Kuntz before the game a little bit. It's funny because you and I are talking about this beforehand. So often we talk about players and the nerves they have before the game, and then you have the coaching staff, and the coaching staff is down there with the players, so more or less they're in the bunker with the players and doing all this stuff. But for general managers, for owners and that type of thing, yeah, you could go down and say hi to the guys beforehand, but once those guys start going out on the field, you're kind of alone, right? You're sort of separated from it. You can go talk to the team guys, do all that stuff. But for Will Kuntz, I would certainly, I talked to him at halftime and he seemed a little nervous. He goes, talk to me again in 45 minutes, like that type of thing. He was focused and sort of in there, and you're like, okay, I get it. But man, there's got to be a helpless feeling. Here you are, an architect of a team. You're a guy who puts all the pieces together, but it's like It's almost like going through like a load screen of a video game where you set up all the things that you want and you grab it and then you hand the controller off to somebody else and say, okay, now you get to play. I'll just stand here and watch.
And you're in the suite. There's no communication. Do you know 9 of the 11 starters in that game yesterday were guys that were not on the team before Will Kuntz started signing players last August?
I mean,
so 9 of the 11 starters were, people that Will Kuntz brought in. Talk about remaking the team. He told me when we met the other day that the Galaxy, he called it an albatross around the neck of the Galaxy, that their MO has always been signing those big name players, getting the big name guys and bringing them in. And we've seen that, Beckham, Robbie Keane, Steven Gerrard, Gio Dos Santos, Zlatan. Some of them have worked out really well. Others, Carlo Cudicini, not worked out so well. But he said that the Galaxy, his impression was when he came in, the Galaxy felt like they were locked into that. They had to do that.
Yeah.
He hasn't done that. He's gone exactly the opposite direction, more kind of like a Seattle Sounders approach. Hey, we'll sign the best players and we'll make them a star. We're not going to import a star. We're going to sign the best players and they will become stars. And you saw that in Seattle with Ladero and Rui Diaz and Jordan Morris. The Galaxy, Gabriel Peck and Joseph Paintsell. Had you heard of them before? Did you have to Google them when they signed them? Are they stars now? Yes, they are.
Yeah, it's been crazy to see. So you get to the stadium early. There was a buzz, and I tweeted it out. I said, the playoffs just hit different. It just feels a little bit different. Seats were filled as the anthem comes out, right? You had that. By the way, a moving tribute to a World War II hero, if you were paying attention in the pregame.
Amazing.
I was talking to Michael Araujo before that. I could see. I actually read through some of the stuff he was going to say about that, and I was like, oh man, I was already thinking this is going to be a tearjerker. I can tell already. But that was great. Anthem was great. You get in there. The TIFO over at Victoria Block and LA and the Galaxians and Angel City Brigade. Yeah.
I want to interject because I was with you when we talked to Dan and a lot of the other guys, but I took a walk around the concourse myself, maybe 25 minutes before kickoff. It was packed. It was very hard. It was very hard to make your way around. It was kind of like Gabriel Peck on that broken field run, dodging people the whole time. It was full. And then I showed you a picture I took coming up the staircase of the Victoria Block 25 minutes before kickoff. It was packed and everybody's jumping up and down and stuff, but you could not get another. I don't know that there was an empty seat there. I don't know if you could have squeezed another person in there.
The 26,192 was announced attendance.
It looked like more. It felt like more. It felt, I know that they called it a sellout, but people were on the berm.
Yep.
Tom Broad told me that they knew it was going to be sold out and it was going to be a big crowd a week ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they announced the sellout early too. We always talk about 25,174 is the capacity sellout crowd. So anytime you go above that, it's going to be sold out. Whenever they go over capacity, and I think that's changed a little bit because how they have the berm roped off because of all the pyrotechnics for the early game and everything is 25,674 in there, and so 26,192 was the announced. That's a lot of people in that building.
Well, and Tom had told me before the game that the berm was a problem. I love the berm. The berm is great seating. I loved sitting on the berm. But he said it was a problem because they were concerned about rain and they didn't want to put people up there if it was going to rain. So they had to sort of follow the weather report before they decided to open the berm.
No rain, Kevin, just some clouds. It still had that playoff feel. Damian and I were arguing about it. He goes, this is the first afternoon game. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure the Miami game was in the afternoon. He was like in the evening. He's like, that was like at 5 or something, wasn't it? And I go, I don't remember exactly. We were trying to just sort of look at it and pay attention to it. But I will say this. I'm going to give credit where credit is due here. Childish Blacksino on Twitter put out this picture, and I can blow it up for you a little bit. But there is we know Peck is a Bible study guy. We know he's a God-fearing young man who really is into his religion, and I think you sort of talk to him about it, and you can see that. But there is this ray of light shining down between the concourses, basically hitting the center of the field, right where the LA Galaxy are going to play. And I think the tweet was, "How could we lose? How could we lose yesterday when it was Sunday service and God was watching His favorites?" Right? It just looks like there's no rain, there's a little bit of clouds, the sun is trying to drip through, and for a little bit you thought the sun was actually going to get into the way of some things there, Kevin. It was sort of on the back side, it was hitting the other side of the field, so that east side, and then eventually it disappeared. And by the time the game was over, their lights were on and everything. It was a full-on night game. But I don't think you could have asked for a better atmosphere. All the players talked about the atmosphere. Everybody. Joseph Paintsell says you have to keep showing up. You have to keep coming because it gives us fuel. It gives us energy. We want that. And you could see.
when Peck scored the early goal, the crowd was super loud, and I had to feel that for Minnesota that was a little intimidating. Not only going down 1-0, but the crowd was so loud. But after Peck's second goal, it's been a while since there's been a winning team at Dignity Health Sports Park. It wasn't even called that then. Right. Last time we had a winning team, that was competing this deep into the season. But after Peck's second goal, I don't know that I've heard that stadium any louder ever, even back in the Bruce days. Maybe people were a little blasé then because they won all the time. And this is, as you're leading up to, this is a more exciting time. But man, I don't remember it ever being that loud. It was deafening.
See, I'm always careful with that because I remember the loudness that happened when Zlatan scored his goal.
Oh, yeah.
It's like one of those. But I've still said that's the loudest moment that I ever remember in that stadium, and I think I stick by that. But this was playoff loud, and this was. There's something about the fact that, and I was talking about you. We had somebody who texted or emailed the club or emailed us and said, "Hey, I've been listening ever since I started following the LA Galaxy." It was like 2 years, right? And I'm like, man, imagine coming in here 2 years ago and that's the frame of reference you have. There was an exuberance in the stadium before that game even kicked off, and certainly right around kickoff, with the great tifo, with the shiny or the flashy cards over in Victoria Block, all that fun stuff. The rally towels. I even tried to get a little poetic with it. I said the sun was bouncing off the rally towels. It was on the other side. Whenever the rally towels were going, it would reflect the sunlight because you had the juxtaposition of the shadow and the sunlight in there. And it was just like this energy that was feeling things. But imagine being 2 years, you join. There's a relief loudness that you're hearing. I remember what it's like to love coming to the stadium and love watching my team. And you could hear it, first of all, talking to anybody as you were walking around the stadium. You could hear it in their voice already. Yes, I'm excited to be here. I can't, imagine if we would have said, Kevin, a quarter of the way through the season, well, the LA Galaxy are going to be in the Western Conference Finals against Seattle. That's how that's how this is going to end. And everybody sits there, no way. There's too much to do. This team isn't built for this year, blah, blah, blah. All the other stuff that we had said and trying to figure out what this team was. Just looking at all those different things. That's the craziness, for me, is understanding that there was this lull or there was this, sort of break that we've seen, and now there is an excitement from everybody to sort of come through and understand that they are witnessing something. And if there's anything that we talk about on today's podcast, this is Josh on his preach, Josh preaching all of his stuff. If there's anything that we can talk about, it is, one, if you're the LA Galaxy, this goes true for you, and as Galaxy fans, and we've been talking about it before, appreciate the moment that you were in. I said it earlier, possibly one of the best accomplishments in club history is to be in the Western Conference Final now with 29 teams now in the league. 10 years ago, the LA Galaxy were this far. They went on to win their MLS Cup in 2014 on December 7th. When is MLS Cup this year? December 7th. There's lots of parallels. Won't matter if they don't get past Seattle on Saturday, but appreciate the moment. Don't take anything for granted. After the Houston loss, remember how down in the dumps everybody was. Oh, that's the end. Down the Galaxy are in second. Now they're going to have to go away to LAFC, blah, blah, blah. The whole deal. Look at what happened with that. You have to be good and you have to be lucky. Those are the things that happen in order to win an MLS Cup. You can't win an MLS Cup without being a little lucky. And if it came down to the LA Galaxy losing against that Houston game on decision day, dropping to number 2, but getting an easier path, certainly through Colorado to start. Colorado was a worse off team than possibly having to play the Vancouver side of things that we certainly saw with LAFC and what they were handling, and then going and facing Minnesota. Now, Minnesota pretended like they were going to be this big challenge, and the Galaxy ran over them like they were roadkill on some empty highway somewhere in the middle of the desert. There was not a lot there. There was barely even a speed bump at times.
There's even more perspective. By the way, what I was looking for is
yes.
Rally towel. When I came back from the post-game press conference, got back to the press box. You don't return there. You go straight home. But someone had left a couple of rally towels for you and I, and a message that I have to give you this, so I will.
Oh, okay.
But the perspective part of that, we talked about the loudness of the crowd, the excitement, the Victoria Block being packed. You could feel the excitement in the parking lot. When I get there, I always get there 2.5 hours before the game. When I got there this time, the line of people waiting to get into the stadium, I think it was a couple of hundred long in some places. I mean, and this is 2.5 hours before the game. There was a lot of excitement. And think back where we were in May of 2013 or 2023, fan boycott, empty stadium, boos, planes flying over the stadium calling for Chris Klein and Jovan to be sacked, which eventually happened. But could you have imagined just 16, 17 months ago that there'd be a packed stadium, that the Galaxy would be unbeaten at home, in their home stadium where the fans were boycotting,
Right.
And playing a Western Conference final, MLS Cup coming here because they have the best record of any of the remaining teams. So, yeah, this is all great. We've seen this before, though. We've seen it before in 2011, 2012. The Galaxy led the league in attendance. We're really good at home. But that wasn't 16, 18 months after a fan boycott and empty stands and boos. That's where we were a year ago.
I mean, I even took it back to just comparing the fullness of the stadium. And I promise we'll talk about the game, but I think it's important to have perspective on all this. I took it back to COVID whenever you and I were the only people in the stands. We were the only people sitting up watching the game. You could hear the players yelling at each other. Remember whenever they piped in the fake fan noise and stuff like that?
Yeah.
We're like, what is going on? Remember that? I mean, that was not at a good time for the LA Galaxy either. There was something sad and distant from that too. The fact that we were playing soccer was good. We liked that there was no traffic getting out of the parking lot, and you didn't have to worry about paying for parking. So that was nice too. But you get through all that. You get through the Greg Vanney time. You get through the boycott, which was I think I've been clear about this before. I was ready to quit last year during the boycott. I didn't want to do this anymore. It wasn't fun. I was constantly getting second guessed and yelled at by everybody. Whether that was fans or whether that was people at the LA Galaxy or anything else. It was not fun. And I don't know if you know this about me, but I do this because it's fun. Because if it wasn't fun, I would stop doing this. It cost me way too much money.
Because I thought you did it to talk to me.
That too. I was making a comment. I was talking to Michael Araujo, by the way. He didn't want to say this to you, and I hesitate to say this, but he says that he appreciates your humor on the show. And that he likes what you bring to the show. So he likes you. He may be the only one, but he likes you.
Yeah, I think he is.
Yeah, absolutely. So
my wife doesn't even like me.
No, I know that. She tells me constantly. Yeah. Let me get to some of the super chats because we've been lining them up here for a little bit.
Well, how many do we have to get? You said 18?
15. We are at 7 right now. We are at 7. Yeah, okay. I know. So we still got to go ways to go. $2 super chat from Metalhead. Hope you love the scarf I got you from Lars. I don't know if everybody can see it, but if you look over this shoulder right here, there's that scarf, a little LA Riot spot. Certainly appreciate it. I like it a lot. So it's here. It'll sit right there. That's where it lives now. Which my mother-in-law is coming to stay in this room very shortly, so she gets all the Galaxy stuff now. I think I'll just leave everything up, including the lights. I'm sure she'll really like that part.
She's a Sounders fan.
Then she's not. She's not.
Okay.
No. We wouldn't. I don't think she knows soccer exists, and that's probably a good thing. I'm happy with that. Philip, by the way, gives a $2 super chat, and he goes, Galaxy just scored again, right? They were scoring so many goals, they probably just scored again. Anthony, $5 super chat, over under 20 goals by the end of the postseason. Lars, over under 20 goals. By the way, the Galaxy are at 15 right now. Yeah.
Yeah, over.
If you figure they're getting by Seattle, then that's a couple goals there. And then if you figure they're going to win an MLS Cup, there's another couple goals that they get I think they can. We'll talk about that here in a little bit too, because that is in many ways another record that could be there. Mr. Provino, always happy to see Mr. Provino in the chat and other places. $5 super chat, no Jingle Bells if you sing. So we cannot. Okay, so Jingle Bells is out. We're not going to do Jingle Bells. I was hoping for maybe like a good King Wenceslas looked out. I'm not going to do it early, but I just we could have some fun with it. Georgino, $2 super chat. Should Delgado start over Royce on Saturday? I think he might. I thought it was interesting they started Royce. We'll talk about that here in a second. And then HNU Dig has 6 trophies showing for a $6 super chat, so we certainly appreciate that. Raphael, a $5 super chat. We picked up another one while we were going. Josh, how about singing Jimmy Butler's Trim Your Tree? I don't know that one. I'm a very big Jimmy Buffett fan, by the way. So I have a feeling though it's Jimmy Butler, not Jimmy Buffett. Those are two different people. Do I know that?
Yes, they are.
Okay.
Yes, they are.
You would know that. I wouldn't. Trim and Tree. And then Barry Blast gave us a $10 super chat with the heart. We certainly appreciate that first super chat there as well. So that's where we're at right now. By
the way, you've mentioned the goals a lot, the 15 goals. Here's another stat. If they beat Seattle, that'll be 4 wins in the playoffs, so 4 wins in less than a month.
Right.
That's half of the games they won in the entire regular season last year.
Yep. That is, just the craziness of only winning 8 games last year and then coming in here and doing what they're doing right now was another just crazy juxtaposition that you couldn't have predicted and seen. We were at Coachella And we were talking to this team, and you're trying to figure out what this is going to be. This is coming off of a thing. The fan boycott's in effect. People are getting ready to get. We're at Coachella. We're having a good time, the whole deal. But you couldn't have predicted this.
But you know what? You bring up a good point. I had never even thought about that. I've been around teams that sucked and had a terrible season. You see them the next spring, and they try to be positive. They try to think we're going to turn it around, and you can tell the players don't believe it. When we went to Coachella, because there were so many players, Diego Fagundes was the guy we talked the most with. I talked to Jovalic. They were all like, we can't wait to get going. This is going to be a great team. We're going to do really well. There was none of that, oh, God, do we have to do this again? Which I felt with other teams. There was none of that. Everybody was really upbeat and excited. And it's something Greg talked about at the end of last season. He said, we learned to get through this, and we learned that it's going to be better going forward. And it was. I hadn't even thought about that till you brought up Coachella, but people were excited in January and February to get the season going.
By the way, we'll just say this. The Coachella looks like it's going to be bigger than last year. I'm not going to say anything else. Just looks like it's going to be bigger. That announcement and all that stuff is coming shortly after, I think, MLS Cup, regardless of what happens with the LA Galaxy. I think we will have a good chance of being back out there at Coachella. So we'll give you a heads up, and you need to plan your vacations in February, I'm guessing, for all that fun stuff, and get out there and have some fun with us. So we're looking forward to that. Aaron, a $5 super chat. Technical question: if Peck misses on his second goal, does he earn a PK since he was shoved to the ground as he shot? Probably not, Aaron. I don't know if you noticed this, but Mendoza was kind of erratic with his calls of plays last night. I'm not sure you could have predicted anything that happened. And then Patrick with the $10 super chat. He has, by the way, we're up to 11 now. McCarthy, Yoshida, and company will finally get our clean sheet on Sunday. You mean Saturday? Saturday. It's on Saturday, Patrick. Don't miss the game. Saturday.
They will definitely have a clean sheet on Sunday. I'm in agreement with there. They're not going to give up a goal on Sunday.
Gary, by the way, $2 super chat. Sing All I Want for Christmas Is You from Mariah Carey. I could do that. I think that one might be in there. And then $5.
We're at 12.
Right. $5 super chat. People are going to take back their money if that's the case. $5 super chat. Misanthrope says Gabriel Peck is so beast. I doubted him in the early stages of the season. I'm so glad he proved me wrong. Now sing a Christmas carol, Josh. Not yet. We're not there yet. And by the way, it's not going to happen until the end of this thing. So you guys are just going to have to keep going for that.
But what are we at? 12 or 13?
We're at 12 right now. We're at 12. We could probably get there. I feel like we're within spitting distance of this, and so it's fine. I'll warm up the pipes. I've been drinking my tea. I'm ready to go. Let's talk about this game. Galaxy 6-2 winners over, by the way, 30 minutes in, we can start talking about the game. The Galaxy 6-2 winners over Minnesota on Saturday night. 3 braces. In fact, 4 braces if you want to count Yeboah over at on there. Yeah, which of course led me to say, Kevin, in the best dad joke of all season so far, so many braces, the Galaxy are going to need an orthodontist. Thank you very much. I'm here all week. Make sure you tip your waitress. Let's start with the starting lineup, because there was a little twist in here, and we talked about it. Marco Royce starting basically in place of Mark Delgado for this. You had a normal back line. Really, everything you expected from this lineup was exactly as expected, except for Marco Royce, who has been coming off the bench. He started this game, possibly with a 3-week rest. Greg Vanney was like, no problem, I can get my 60, 70 minutes out of him. And I think there was some good reason to have him in there and do what he did. But you basically had Nelson, Yoshida, Garces, and Yamane on the back line. You had Ricky Puig, Cerrillo, and Marco Royce in that midfield. Gabriel Peck, Dejan Jovalic, and of course Joseph Paintsil lined up here. And this is a fun graphic because they have Paintsil on the right and Gabriel Peck on the left, and everybody knows that that's the opposite. So that's how it sort of stood up there and everything. Now, big sort of focus here was on Dane St. Clair, goalkeeper for Minnesota, and what he was going to do. So a lot of interesting choices here. The Galaxy, looking with Marco Royce there, meant that they had Diego Fagundes, who could come off the bench. They had, Gaston Brugman, Mark Delgado. Those guys could all come off the bench. Technical note as well, no yellow card accumulation. Everything gets reset. And so it gets reset for the next game, which means that nobody can be suspended for yellow cards unless you get a red card in the conference final. Then you would miss the MLS Cup. However, there is no yellow card accumulation outside of this. So everything reset. It is clean. It is wiped clean. And so if you get a yellow card in the Western Conference final, you're still going to be eligible and available for the next game.
By the way, you want to know how good the Galaxy was? You put that lineup up there, so it made me look up the number scores on FOTMob of players. Paintsil was a 9.3, Peck was 9.0, Jovalic 9.3, Ricky was 8.1, Nelson was 8.0, Garces 8.6.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, those are you don't see those kind of scores.
No,
Ever.
no. It was Fat Mom had him way up there. It was definitely one of those things they sort of watch. We can start. I mean, listen, let's just do it easy. First minute, Gabriel Peck scores a goal inside of 30 seconds. I think they officially classified it as 30 seconds, by the way. So with that 30 seconds, with this goal after 30 seconds, LA Galaxy forward Gabriel Peck scored the fastest postseason goal in club history. I believe Jonathan Dos Santos had the second fastest with 32 seconds, and the fastest MLS postseason goal since 2015 when Diego Valeri scored in 27 seconds. All right, so that was the record there. So the Galaxy are up 1-0. I literally texted the Hammer, it's going to be one of those games. Right? And so we were just getting settled down. Let's also remember that 30-second goal, Kevin, came off of a Minnesota United kickoff. That was not the Galaxy who kicked the ball off and then scored within 30 seconds. That was Minnesota kicking the ball off, the Galaxy winning it back, getting to Ricky Puig. Ricky Puig hits a ball with the outside of his foot. First pass, 3 weeks off. How are you feeling, Ricky Puig? It feels like I haven't missed a step. Thank you very much. Ball hooks out to Gabriel Peck. He beats his guy, wins his battle, puts that away with his left foot. Galaxy winning 1-0. I was like, okay, this is going to be, it's hysterically, Kevin. I think at one point I tweeted out before the game, two schools of thought here. If you're the LA Galaxy, you want to be patient with Minnesota because you expect them to sit back. You expect them to be a team that is going to be defensively sound. They're going to be defensively stout. You're not going to want to waste a lot of time trying to break them down all the time. So pick your moments, be patient. Or the other one was you've been off for 3 weeks. You have one of the highest powered offenses in all of Major League Soccer. Just run at them. Ricky Puig decided first pass, let's just run at them.
How many goals would they have scored if they hadn't had that 3-week break, which everyone talked about how much was going to hurt them?
Right.
By the way, there were a lot of passes like that. I mean, that was a pass that Ricky made knowing that Peck could beat his defender and just letting Peck run onto it. There were a lot of passes that, especially there were a lot of passes to Peck and Paintsil like that, where it was just, we're going to throw it 20 yards out there and we trust you to beat your guy to the ball.
Yeah.
They saw something in Minnesota. They knew, again, we talked about how much the Galaxy they're a track team now, especially on the wings. And, I think Greg Vanney planned for that. We can run on these guys. They can't stay with us. Even with the 5-man back line, we can get behind them if you just put the ball out there. And that's what the Galaxy did all night.
Well, and the interesting part is go back and watch that game. Watch how the Galaxy get to rest in possession, too. The penalty kick that was drawn by Gabriel Peck, that was one in which the Galaxy had 30 passes that led up to the penalty kick. Now, if you watch that, there's a lot of we're playing forward, we're passing side to side. We're looking for things. We're taking our time. We're not going to put ourselves into bad positions. We're going to build it up. Okay, we went inside, then the ball bounced back outside. Then all of a sudden it comes all the way back, and then the ball gets played over the top to Peck. That's how that 30-pass sequence goes, where Peck eventually gets a penalty kick, and he misses that penalty kick even after McCarthy saved it the first time, but he was well off the line. Replay showed that, the whole deal. I know people wanted to change the rule about the stutter step and say you're not allowed to stutter step, and you can't use the stutter step to get your goalkeeper off the line and then get the advantage. And I'm like, listen, they're always going to give the advantage to the goalkeeper, so I doubt FIFA or IFAB is going to do anything about the stutter step or anything. They want the advantage in the offensive players.
Well, the Galaxy had 73% possession. They completed
70%. So MLS officially has it at 70%, right? But I'm fine with the 73. I don't really care. That's not that.
Well, and yeah, okay, you got the stats here because the stats I'm looking at shows 633 passes.
Yeah. I have total passes at 683. And possession at 70.1%.
But look at the pass completion percentage. 85 is really good. 87 is crazy. They're at 93.
Yeah, 92.1 on this one. But yeah, I mean, yeah.
That's just, it's unheard of. I mean, the stats I'm looking at shows Minnesota 181 passes and 75%. So they didn't complete 3 out of every 4 passes. The Galaxy 9 out of every 10 passes they completed. I know a lot of them were short passes. They were, as we said, there was a long pass sequence to set up that penalty kick. So there were a lot of short passes, and they were looking for openings and all that. I don't care if you do something 92% of the time correctly. I don't care what you're doing. I don't even brush my teeth correctly 92% of the time. It was amazing.
Yeah, it was quite the dominating performance, 100%. And you look at all that. You get the goal in the first minute, and then let's talk about Minnesota, because Minnesota comes back. Yeboah scores that goal. And by the way, all I can say is what a rocket The XG on that goal is very slim. Like, he's moving away from goal. His first touch, as I think Marisa Dew even put up there, his first touch takes him away from goal. It makes the goal more difficult. And he rocketed that to an upper V. There's going to be Galaxy fans who are, oh, John McCarthy should have stopped that near. But that is a rocket. And if anybody scores that goal, you sit there and say, that's a rocket. Just acknowledge a good goal every once in a while and say, probably not anything you're going to do. If I'm Maya Yoshida, I'm not pressuring that because he's moving away from goal. He's inside the box. You don't want to foul him. He's already moving away. There's not a lot of danger there. Very sharp angle. He has like a box that he has to hit that's 2 inches by 2 inches square if he's going to score that goal, and he hit it. And it's one of those, and you're like, okay, just sort of nod and say it. Didn't fluster the Galaxy, didn't hurt them, didn't worry them. They were fine with that. And then one of the guys, we talked about Marco Royce. In my opinion, Kevin, you can tell me if you think I'm wrong. Greg Vanney put Marco Royce in this position, started this game in one of the biggest games the Galaxy have played in recent history, and did it because, one, he's very rested, and two, he wanted somebody who wasn't going to shy away from that moment, not be nervous, not be fake. Marco Royce has all the pedigree of a Champions player, right? He's been in huge, huge games, much bigger than anything that even approaches. I'm glad he didn't come into the press conference so we could be like, what do you think of the atmosphere? It's like a joke a lot of times. I'm not saying compared to some of the games he's played in, 50, 60, 70,000 fans, 80,000 fans, that type of thing. He's not going to get flustered by this. I think he put him in there knowing, one, he was going to be able to handle any pressure that was in there and help the guys around them stay calm. You're talking about veteran presence in that spot. And two, he was going to be a relief valve that Ricky Puig could use whenever things got a little tight. And if you watched him play, and I even had somebody on Twitter say, you complimented Marco Royce and how he played in this game, and everybody else I talked to says, he doesn't do much. I'm like, well, they're not paying attention to what he's doing. He's drawing people away from Ricky Puig. He's being the relief. He's the combination guy. He's running into space and having people follow him and dragging guys around and opening up space for other guys. Every movement Marco Royce makes is for a reason, and you can watch it. He gets in the way of passing lanes whenever they turn over the ball. He's quick to pressure. He does all the things you want to do, and in most ways, he's not going to show up on the score sheet, except, of course, for the assist he gets, which is on a set piece, and he puts it on Dejan Jovelic's head for the second goal for the LA Galaxy.
It was a beautiful pass, and you're right about all the things you said about why Royce is in there, but you started the podcast by saying you thought maybe Mark Delgado would go back in. You just argued that they have to start Royce again because now the pressure and the atmosphere gets even bigger. And I do think the safety valve for Ricky and the fact that here's a guy that's just going to say, hey, you guys, it's only 20,000. It's not that big a deal.
Yeah.
I think that's really helpful. It would to take nothing away from Mark Delgado. Tremendous player, probably deserves to be playing too. But you got Marco Royce for a reason. And maybe this is the reason you got him.
Absolutely. Galaxy go up 3-1 whenever the long ball over the top to Yamane, who full volleys that across the goal, goes just past Dejan Joveljic, and then it's Joseph Paintsil who knocks it in. I did not know until I watched the LA Galaxy's low-angle film from the field and watching that ball, because it comes across and St. Clair had to sort of guard against Joveljic getting it. So St. Clair's a little out of position, but he's trying to move over to stop Paintsil. That ball goes off the post, that near post, hits Dane St. Clair, and then goes into the goal. So it went off of St. Clair after it did. Probably going in anyway, right? One of those things. But it hits that post, hits St. Clair, and then goes in. It's like this much of a window for Joseph Paintsil to slot it in, and he scores that.
And originally, they gave Joveljic an assist very early. They corrected it quickly, but they gave Joveljic an assist as he deflected the ball to Paintsil. I was curious, what did you think? Some people were saying that they thought Joveljic dummied, that he knew that Paintsil was there. Well, I think the pass missed Joveljic, and they were lucky that Paintsil was following the play and was in position. If
you watch them run at any of these goals, right? Remember, everybody gets 2 goals on that front line. You get Joveljic with 2, you get Paintsil with 2, you get Peck with 2. Going through all those things and seeing that, they were always running on that line. Even whenever Peck has his wonder second goal where he dribbles through, go back and watch the replay of Joveljic pressing the line down the center and then Paintsil being wide open on the back. So even if Peck missed that wide, which was the place to miss it, Paintsil's probably there to knock it in. He didn't need to, but he gets it there. The only sort of worrying part of this, of course, is that you're in stoppage time, or just before stoppage time of the first half, and Joveljic fouls inside the box, and Minnesota wins a penalty kick, and Yeboah scores that penalty kick. It makes it 3-2 just before halftime. So you had all this momentum. It's 3-1. Really, another goal probably puts that game away, right? You're like, probably puts it away. Probably is the end. But at halftime, you're at 3-2. I think that's the only reason that we saw Galaxy fans, and we had our meetup at the top of 108 there to say hi to everybody. I think that's the only reason that Galaxy fans were a little nervous. If it's 3-1, I think they're feeling a lot better. I said at halftime, and I said it to people, multiple people around, I said, the Galaxy can get a goal early, this game will be over. I go, because 4-2 is way different than 3-2. And I thought that was going to sort of be the case. And then you get the Gabriel Peck. By the way, Amiro Garces gets an assist to Gabriel Peck on Peck's 70-yard run that he scores a goal on, which is good for Garces. Love to see the stats, but I think probably Peck deserves that. Kevin, what do we say about the second goal that Peck scores? We haven't seen in all the history of all-time goals that have been scored by the LA Galaxy. You can talk about David Beckham scoring from midfield over Kevin Hartman. You can look at Landon Donovan's shot that was curled around a defender against New England, a right-footed outside of the boot shot that curls around and beats Matt Reese. You can talk about Robbie Keane slotting goals home against Houston, like all the big goals. The Zlatan goal, right? Whenever he scores that big one. You're talking about the biggest of big goals. For me, Gabriel Peck may have cracked the top 10 with that run and what he was able to do in the situation where you're in a playoff game, you're in a do-or-die game, your team needs one more goal, and Gabriel Peck said, hop on my back, I'm going to take it 70 yards and score. Do you think it's overstating that run?
No, but I think the first goal is probably in the conversation. If you take the two together, as a paired entry, certainly it ranks up there because he wasn't to be denied on either goal. I mean, there are plenty of places. He talked about the defender kicking him and how much it hurt, but he kept going. He talked afterwards about he started up, the wing and thought maybe I got a chance. And then he said the further he went, the more it became in his mind. At first it was just, I'll see how far I can go and then I'll pass the ball off. But the further he went, the more defenders he avoided. I said to someone afterwards that, and this is a ridiculous comparison, and I realize that they're two different things, but the Maradona score against in the World Cup in Mexico, where he ran, through the British defense or the English defense, this reminded me a lot of that, and that it was a broken field run. It was like a football run. He was avoiding guys, dribbling around guys chasing him, and then he was pushed down as he took the shot, which, again, increased the degree of difficulty. But what I took away from both of those is you were just simply not going to stop him.
No.
They tried. They got physical with him. They, defenders made good plays, but he was just not going to be stopped on either one of those goals.
You get the double yellow card to Diaz, right? And that was part of that Peck problem, that they couldn't solve the Peck problem. They were picking up yellow cards trying to foul people. I'll say the one thing that Mendoza, who's the referee in this, got right was that he was protecting the LA Galaxy players. There were certainly some softer tackles there where the Galaxy players went down, where we have seen that the Galaxy didn't get the call. This still had a playoff atmosphere in terms of, hey, there's going to be some tough fouls, and you're sort of going to have to just play through some of those tough fouls. That's still head up, but the second yellow card to Diaz coming in there and being the red card in the 82nd minute, and then you get Joseph Paintsill scoring his brace in the 86th minute, and finally Dejan Joveljic getting the final one, the 6-2. So the Galaxy far and away 6-2 winners of this Western Conference semifinal. Now move on to face Seattle. Seattle coming up at 7 p.m. That's Saturday, November 30th, so the Saturday after Thanksgiving. And that game will kick off, I believe it's 7:10 p.m. is your kickoff time. Galaxy 19-8-7, Seattle 16-9-9. Seattle coming off of wins over Houston in penalty kicks, both of them. In fact, they scored all of one goal in that series. They scored 2 goals against LAFC, so they've scored 3 goals total whenever they went that way. The LA Galaxy getting past Colorado 5-0 and 4-1. By the way, the fewest goals the Galaxy have scored in any playoff game so far in 2024 is 4 goals. So 5-0, 4-1 is what they get there, and then 6-2 winners over Minnesota. That brings them to the conference final, where they will host the Seattle Sounders coming up on Saturday. Also on Saturday and before this game, 4:30 p.m. Pacific time kickoff, conference final On the Eastern side, it is number 4 Orlando versus number 7 Red Bulls New York. And then you can watch that Orlando comes through after beating Charlotte, and then Red Bulls come through after beating Columbus. So both sort of some upsets. Orlando is holding court on their side. So Orlando, much like the Galaxy, holding court, holding serve through theirs. But Red Bull certainly as the number 7 climbing in there. Seattle, the number 4, is a pretty good, still holding serve for their side of things too. So we'll see how that Western Conference sort of shakes up.
And you talk about Seattle, 3 goals in 3 games. The Galaxy had 3 goals in 37 minutes on Sunday.
They did.
And I know you wanted to talk about this. Seattle played LAFC without anybody, with backups on the left side, guys who had combined for 2 minutes. Jonathan Bell was the outside back on that side, and the Galaxy and LAFC came up with Bogues, pushed on that side. Guess if Jonathan Bell starts again, and again, I don't believe he had started many games all season. He was a backup to Nuhu, who had a virus and actually didn't come back from Cameroon after international duty. I think he'll probably be back. But again, looking at this lineup, you see Jonathan Bell there. Guess who Gabriel Peck's going to be running out this weekend if Nuhu doesn't come back.
Right.
That is a big thing the Galaxy could exploit, which is why I fully expect that Brian Smetzer probably flew to Cameroon and got Nuhu and put him on a plane himself.
Very well could have. To wrap it up, with Gabriel Peck, Joseph Paintsil, and Dejan Joveljic each recording a brace in the 6-2 win over Minnesota United, it marked the first time in MLS postseason history that 3 teammates scored 2+ goals in the same game. That was one of those. With the 15 goals scored during the Audi 2024 at MLS Cup playoffs, the LA Galaxy have set a new MLS record for the most goals scored through a team's first 3 games to begin a playoff. That's not only that. Because if you go a little bit further into that, you will see most goals and records through the playoffs. Greg Vanney has a tie to 2 of these teams right now. And somebody even said tie to 3, but Greg Vanney was not on the 2002 LA Galaxy side, had moved on, I think, in 2001. So what you see here is Toronto FC, which was a Greg Vanney-coached team, had 17 goals in 6 matches. The LA Galaxy need 2 more goals to match the 2016 Toronto FC side, and they will have done it in 4 games instead of 3 games. If they get 2 goals against Seattle, they would match that record. These are all-time records whenever you're looking at this. 15 goals for Chicago in 2000, 15 goals for the 2002 LA Galaxy, 15 goals for the 2023 Columbus Crew, and right now the LA Galaxy, by the way, 15 goals for the 2023 Columbus Crew, and they did it in 6 games. These are all just the Galaxy have played half the games of most of these teams, and they've already equaled or about to equal them probably whenever you're looking at the Toronto game. So that says something about this. Kevin, you and I were talking about all the history that we've seen from the LA Galaxy. Remember, we were looking at the charts and we were saying, well, technically they're among like the top 3 best LA Galaxy teams ever. Now you're starting to walk into a little bit different stuff too. You're talking about all-time records in the playoffs that are starting to fold towards the LA Galaxy. I don't know how to classify this offense. I was there. I've been, watching the LA Galaxy since 2008. This podcast started in 2009. I saw the championship teams all the way through. I was at MLS Cup in 2009 when the Galaxy lost to Real Salt Lake. I was there when they beat Houston in 2011, 2012, right? And we saw those teams. Great teams, by the way. Robbie Keane, Landon Donovan, David Beckham through 12. Look at 2014, just with the amount of players that they had on that team and what they were capable of doing. You can look at all those things that you want, and certainly you could go back to 2002 and look at the high-scoring offense that they had, and that chart shows that 2002 was there. This is new. I don't know that I've ever seen an LA Galaxy offense as dominant, even, especially in the playoffs.
Well, Greg Vanney took 3 shots at answering that question. I think in the same answer. First one he said is the Galaxy are back, which is true. The second one, he talked about Gabriel Peck and how special he is. He said he can go one-on-one. He can combine.
Hold on. I got the quote. He can beat you right. He can beat you left. Today, he's running hard without the ball, which creates a lot of problems for you. He can play in combination with other guys, like when you have a winger that you know is, a triple, quadruple threat and isn't just kind of one thing. It becomes almost undefendable because he always has whoever he's dealing with, they always have him guessing.
So that's what Greg Vanney's saying. This is why this offense is so good. But he made another point, which I thought was interesting, and you can read 2 ways. He talked about how the second Colorado game, Ricky scored twice, I think in stoppage time. So the game was really it was really a 2-goal game, and they wound up with 4.
Right.
This game, it was 4-1 in going into the 87th minute, and then Paintsel and Joveljic scored minutes apart. So after 85 minutes, it's still 4-2. Those all look manageable, but the Galaxy pushed and scored. And Greg, I guess Greg's point was, like, look, it wasn't as one-sided as we thought. We weren't as dominant as you might have thought. Yes, they were. They kept pushing.
Yep.
They played 90 minutes for a reason. Teams that quit after 80 minutes and just say, we're going to bunker down, we're going to play this out. The Galaxy don't do that. And if I were an opposing team, man, I would hate to play against a team like that, because you think at 4-2, you got a shot. They're going to bunker down, the Galaxy are, and you're going to at least get an opportunity if you can get through that bunker. No, the Galaxy are going to keep pushing the whole way. That's I think that's a hard team to play against, because it's a little bit unpredictable.
Yeah, it feels unpredictable, right? By the way, Ron, one of our followers and a good friend of the show, tweeted out, under discussed LA Galaxy 2024 attribute: team physical fitness is extraordinary. Games are close, but then about 55, 60 minutes, the players start running past opponents and never stop. Credit to the heroes and the staff and the professionalism of the players themselves. He's not wrong. I mean, how many times we've talked about the LA Galaxy being a second half team. One of the reasons they're a second half team is that as other teams are trying to catch their breath in that final 30 minutes of the game, the Galaxy are getting ready to hit the second gear that they have.
And they're doing it with the starters. It's
Yes.
one thing if you say, they go to the bench and they brought on Ima Boateng and he's running past people. Of course, he's the fastest guy in the league and he's going to run past you. But these guys they're doing it with the starters, and credit to those physios, because it wasn't that long ago. It was under GBS a lot, and maybe at the start of the Vanney era, where there were more guys, starters on the sidelines with all kinds of muscle cramps and muscle issues and hamstring pulls, and guys out for months at a time. There's still injuries, but the team is not crippled like it was for times, in recent seasons when they weren't playing well.
100%. I mean, you can see what this team is doing, and they're able to just keep the pressure on. Remember when we were saying, when are the Galaxy going to play that 90-minute game? Remember, we were waiting for the 90-minute. Apparently, you just needed to put them in the playoffs, and they were going to play 90-minute games, because this team has been playing till the final whistle. You don't see a lot of things. Somebody came up and said, I'm still worried about the defense. I'm going to tell you why this defense in the playoffs has been actually really good. The LA Galaxy with expected goals, 3.9 for the LA Galaxy, so 4, almost 4. Remember, expected goals are always going to underperform whenever you have like a high-scoring game, right? So it says the Galaxy had a 4 and they scored 6. It's because most of those shots aren't going to equal to 1, right? So you're going to get under that whenever it goes. But if you look over at Minnesota on 1.6, and 1.6 is more than they allowed, I think, combined against Colorado, but 0.7 of that was for a penalty kick. Right. And if that 0.7 goes away, that brings you to a 0.9. So the LA Galaxy basically held Minnesota to non-XGPK of 0.9. So under 1 goal. I don't know what more you want from a defense on this. They haven't been shaky. They've looked calm. Big shout outs to Amiro Garces and how well he's been playing. Huge shout out. I mean, and by the way, Garces going up against Yeboah, that was speed against speed. There was actually early in that game, Yeboah smoked Garces, just ran right past him. And I think that was a little wake up for Garces. And he was able to recover, and I think he played his angles a little bit better. Yoshida has been great. Yoshida's been calm in there. The Galaxy have been very calm on defense. They don't look like they're running around like they're chickens with their heads cut off. Greg Vanney said, when you're organized on defense, you're able to put together good defensive games. Because I asked him about the defense. I go, you guys have been a defensive team in the playoffs. And he's like, well, yeah. I also, Kevin, as you would always point out, when you have 70% possession, it's hard for the other team to score whenever they only have 30% of the ball, right? So
yeah, Wayne Gretzky used to say that the other team can't score if I have the puck, which is true, by the way. If you look at when did this, we talked early in the season a lot, and both of us were saying, yeah, this is a really good team. It's a playoff team. And we talked about how Greg Vanney needed to win a playoff game at home to keep his job. But we kept dismissing the fact that it was a Supporters Shield team, and maybe it would need some luck to get the MLS Cup. You know when all that changed? I think if you look back at the season, June, when Paintsel came back from his injury and said, I'll go to the left wing, leave Gabriel Peck on the right side. Super unselfish, team-oriented decision. He likes the right side. Paintsel's a right winger. That's where he wants to play.
Right.
He knew that Gabriel Peck was on fire and was something special and had something going. And he took the bullet for the team, had a great season himself. Could have been better. Would he have had Peck's numbers? Probably not, but we don't know that, right? Because that's his natural side. But he decided to let Gabriel Peck play over there. I think the Galaxy have been a totally different team since they made that move.
Could have been. I mean, talk a little bit about Joseph Paintsel, though. He doesn't get all the touches that Gabriel Peck does, right? It doesn't happen. Greg Vanney talks about it all the time. Ricky Puig's natural sort of ball flight is to hit the ball from sort of his left side to the right side, and so he finds Peck a lot. But when they found Paintsel in this game, Paintsel was scoring goals. It was about the economy of touches and the economy of shots for Joseph Paintsel. He's not going to have a ton of them, but the ones he got, he was burying. And you could see that. They had Minnesota right where they wanted them from the very beginning. And for me, Joseph Paintsel has been a bit of a revelation, especially in the second half. Somebody asked, I believe it was Sophie, was sort of asking how Greg Vanney has sort of helped him. Remember when Joseph Paintsel was struggling, Kevin, when he seemed frustrated? There was possibility he was even getting hurt, and everything was just sort of going bad for the Galaxy. And you're like, oh, with him, he just wasn't hitting. And you're like, whenever Paintsel comes back, this is going to be a good team. But you're waiting for him to sort of hit stride. Sophie asked, what has Greg Vanney meant to this team, and especially Joseph Paintsel, and I have the quote here. He says, I won't say much, but he's really like a father. By the way, if you're ever going to not say that much, and if you just start with that sentence, you've already said a lot, right? He's really like a father. He really talks really calmly with us, and as a player, that's what we really need. We don't need a coach who shouts and makes you angry. Whenever there is something, he always comes to you as his own son and discusses with you patiently and calmly. And that really gave me that confidence to also give what he also deserves, right? To give him back what he deserves. It's about completing that relationship. I'm adding sort of this stuff in here. And then back to this final quote. And not only me, Ricky, the whole team, Maya, and everybody, right? So, we talked, and I know that there were some people who were like, hey, Greg Vanney needs to go, right? Because he wasn't getting the results. He wasn't doing the stuff they were waiting for this team to develop. And after last year, there was a lot of questions about whether or not that team would develop and stuff. And we had always talked about how the players love playing for Greg Vanney. There's a relationship there. Joe Tatino tweeted out that they may all have different names on the backs of their jersey, but they're all brothers, right? This is a family. If it's a family, Greg Vanney's the dad. And Joseph Paintsel just sort of put that out there. To me, that really shows what this team is doing behind the scenes.
Well, and Will Kuntz deserves all the credit he gets, and everyone's talking about Will Kuntz. 9 of the 11 starters on Sunday were guys that he brought in since last August. And by the way, MLS will announce their Sporting Executive of the Year tomorrow. It should be Will Kuntz. It's not. I know who it is. I'm not going to tell you, but you can read the LA Times tomorrow, and you'll find out. But it should have been Will Kuntz. In any case, it's not. But so everyone says, oh, well, Will Kuntz did this. Greg had the team last year. He was the coach. They won 8 games. Will gave him better players this year. Yes, he did. But you know what? The coach has to make those. You got 9 new players. You got to get them to play as a team. And I think what Joseph Paintsel said speaks volumes, especially coming from Joseph Paintsel, the guy who Greg said, you're going to move to the left side. And he said, yeah. And then Greg said, no, you need to play the number 9 because Dayon's hurt. And he said, yeah. And you know what? He was bad. But Paintsel didn't complain. He didn't say, you're making me look bad. You're not putting me in a position to succeed, which he could have said. He said, no, Greg convinced me this is good for the team. I think, when you look at Joseph Paintsel, and when he was in the interview room yesterday, we tried to get him to talk about himself. I don't think he ever used the word I.
No.
Everything was about the team. Hey, buddy, you just scored 2 goals in a big playoff game. How was that? We, and that's what he said. He talked about the team, and here's a guy that is a big star. He came in as a designated player. He's getting paid twice what Peck's getting paid. That's what the Galaxy think of him. He got a $9 million transfer fee, and yet he's a guy that says, you want me to play the number 9? I can't play there, but I'll do it. You want me to talk about myself? I'm going to talk about the team. There's a lot of players like that on this team. Yoshida is great. Just everybody, as Joe Tatino said, and he says everything the best. Everyone bought into this team concept, and that is what Greg Vanney did with the players that Will brought in. So, Greg didn't get Coach of the Year either. It went to Wilfred Nancy. He should have got Coach of the Year because he did a remarkable job.
Yeah, by the way, our goal has been hit on the Super Chats. I need to catch up on some of them. Kazar, $2 Super Chat. You should sing a song, and it's in Spanish, and I tried to look up the last word because, my Spanish is not good, and I'm afraid to say it, so I'm not going to say it, but probably not because my Spanish is so horrible, but I will look it up afterwards to actually figure that out. Cindy, $5 Super Chat. Shout out to my husband, Jonathan. What up, Jonathan? He loves the LA Galaxy and loves COG. We're excited for the next game. I think everybody's excited for that. Anthony, $2 Super Chat. By the way, we haven't talked about this yet. it's been hinted at like a couple times, but should the Galaxy get past Seattle and go to an MLS Cup? There is a tradition here on Corner of the Galaxy, which people have not had for 10 years. And for 10 years, it's been sort of waiting out there. But there is, and if you go back to 2014 and you look for the MLS Cup preview of that, there may or may not be a 7 to 9 minute dramatic game preview that sort of summarized the whole season before the podcast even starts. And I would imagine that something like that would be in the works again. And I'm already dreading it because I remember how much work it is to pull all the stuff. But there is something there. So another bonus for the Galaxy to get past Seattle is getting Josh to do a 7 to 9 minute dramatic build up before the podcast. So
can't we just outsource that to COG Studios? Isn't that what they're supposed to do?
I wish. Anthony Martinez, $2 super chat. PKs equal kryptonite. Do you think that's what is our demise? I mean, hey, I've already said it. If you're the LA Galaxy, you better keep scoring 7 to 12 goals a game so you don't get in any penalty kick shootouts, because you saw Gabriel Peck, missed his one, eventually comes back and gets all of the stuff he needed to.
You know who's really good at those?
Yeah.
Seattle.
Yeah, you don't want to play. Don't go to penalty kicks. I'm waiting for the adversity against Seattle. I was waiting for adversity against Minnesota, and it was there for like a minute whenever they was tied 1-1, and then eventually the Galaxy came back and scored. They were calm about it. So I think if you learn anything from that adversity, you're okay. But still, there's going to be more adversity against Seattle. Robinson, $2 super chat. Josh, can you sing "We Are the Champions" by Queen? Not until after the LA Galaxy would win something.
That's not a Christmas song.
It could. Well, please. They have some of my favorite things. These are a few of my favorite things. Is a Christmas song now. It's not a Christmas song, by the way. I just like to point out.
I vote for "I Want a Hippopotamus for Christmas."
Which is so. My wife would be angry for me telling you this, but she at one point told me while we were dating that was like her favorite Christmas song. So every time I hear that song, I'm like, "Hey, it's your favorite song." She recently confided in me that she hates that song. It's not her favorite song, and to stop saying that. But I want a hippopotamus for Christmas, that type of thing. That's still not the one I'm singing. We haven't gotten there yet. No.
That sounded like that was a preview of what's coming.
Maybe, could be, don't know. Gary, $2 super chat. Sing "Last Christmas" by Wham. By the way, do you play the Wham game during the holidays? Do you play where you're trying not to get whammed? The idea is to go as long as you can through the year, through the Christmas season, without getting whammed, without hearing "Last Christmas" by Wham. My wife and I, we hadn't even talked about it. And 2 days ago, we had Christmas music on because we're those people. And we heard Wham. And she goes, "We just got whammed. It's not even Thanksgiving yet." And I go, "That's what happens." So we're out already.
Yeah, if you're listening to Christmas music before Thanksgiving, you deserve for that to happen.
I'm just saying, I didn't expect to get whammed, and we got whammed. So maybe I'm going to wham other people. Maybe that's what's going to happen tonight. Adam, $2 super chat. Did you guys really think Seattle couldn't beat LAFC? I thought there was a good chance Seattle could beat LAFC. I just thought that LAFC and by the way, I was told over and over again, even though I would argue and push back, that LAFC had the better talent. LAFC was the deeper team. LAFC was this, that, and everything else. And I was like, I don't see it. Show me where that shows up this year. Seattle beating them wasn't a surprise to me. They didn't show up. LAFC had the talent to beat Seattle. That is a choke job 101. And the Galaxy could be next to choke against Seattle. If we're talking from strict talent and depth right now, the LA Galaxy have the advantage. There is no reason the LA Galaxy should lose to Seattle, Kevin. No reason on any night. That being said, would I be surprised? Not going to be surprised. But that's...
we talked earlier about Will Kuntz saying the Galaxy MO has always been bringing in the aging stars, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Guess what? Galaxy, their front three, 22, 23, 26 years old, 25 years old. Who do LAFC have? They have a 37-year-old goalkeeper, Hugo Lloris, and a 38-year-old forward, Olivier Giroud. Stars that won a World Cup with France that couldn't win an MLS Cup.
It's MLS. It's just built different. I don't know what to
and
tell
what
you.
happened to Inter Miami? Didn't they have a lot of
That's what
players
I heard.
that we heard of?
That's what I heard. I heard something about them earlier. David, $5 super chat. I just hope the LA Galaxy doesn't go to penalty shootouts. They don't have the best of luck on PKs. MLS Cup 2009, Landon Donovan, the best penalty taker miss. Oh, I remember that. I was in that stadium for that.
Yeah, that's kind of like the English national team. They kind of snake bit on those penalties.
Yeah.
Oh, they practiced this week.
David, another $5 super chat. I'm just happy Galaxy aren't playing in Seattle. That venue was always tough for the Galaxy to win. Yeah, but let's remember, in years past, it was the Galaxy going up to Seattle to eliminate them because it was home and away, right? It would have been an aggregate goal.
Yeah, what happens in League Cups this year?
Yeah, exactly. 100%.
In Seattle.
You don't want to be up there, but I'm just telling you, the old Galaxy teams used to have to go up there and get a result, do something. Gary, $2 super chat. Ham or turkey for Thanksgiving? My answer is yes. is yes. You're not allowed to answer. You don't eat meat. I don't want to.
No, we're having Indian food on Thanksgiving.
Indian food's great. Love Indian food. That's a great call, by the way. I'm not upset about that at all. There's one more quote I wanted to get to from Joseph Paintsel. I put this one together a little bit. He was asked about the team being connected, to being locked in. Greg Vanney talked about it a little bit. Joseph Paintsel had earlier said, we're going to kill some teams. And so Alex, our good friend Alex, was sitting there and says, hey, you've said before that, you're going to kill some teams, and now you're sort of there. And he goes, and this was Joseph's response. He goes, he was a longer answer, but this was the quote you want. He goes, we just kill them. We will kill a lot of teams. He is this team, and he's talked about it. It doesn't matter about individual accolades. This team is not about that. First of all, I've got a lot of jobs not finished, right? Jobs not finished, Kobe Bryant. Jobs not finished. It's not done. I will tell you right now, the LA Galaxy.
Surreal said that a couple times.
Said it a couple times, right? Jobs not finished. It does not matter. Nothing matters. Joe Tutino tweeted out today. He said, nothing matters except for Saturday, November 30th. That is it. There is nothing else before, after, anything. That is what all that matters is November 30th. The LA Galaxy have today off, I believe. They'll be back in training tomorrow, and they'll go through their regular sort of routine as they get ready for this week and that game on Saturday. So, that's...
Do they train on Thursday? If you're Greg Vanney, do you come in on Thanksgiving?
Yeah, you're coming in. Yeah. Well, we were trying
half your team doesn't even celebrate that anyways.
We were trying to get them to do media availability on Thursday morning. What else are you going to do? Like, it's Thanksgiving morning. What are you doing on Thanksgiving morning? I gladly go. I have the day off. I would have grabbed my son. We would have made it out to LA Galaxy training to talk to Greg Vanney and company and see how they were doing. Media availability scheduled for Wednesday. Again, this is our only podcast of the week. Because I have family in town, and I was told no mas. That was it. So this is it. This is the only one you get to listen to for the rest of the week.
I bet if you wandered out there with your kid on Thursday, they'd let you in.
They might. They like me now, so that's always a positive thing. So, but no. It's just one of those things. Yeah, you're training on Thursday, 100%. You're there. I was trying to see if I had the Galaxy schedule in front of me. I don't think I printed that one out. So, this is what's coming up though. As you look at Saturday and everything that's coming on, the LA Galaxy, programming details, tickets on sale now, right now, tickets starting at $75, lagalaxy.com/playoffs. I expect this to sell out. The first 20,000 fans in attendance for Western Conference Final on Saturday receive a playoff rally towel while supplies last. Yep. Show your rally towel there, Kevin. Good. The pregame party at Galaxy Park. Fans are invited to attend the pregame party at Galaxy Park, where they can take part in a wide range of family-friendly activities with drinks and music before the gates open for Saturday's Western Conference Final. Pregame entertainment. Fans are encouraged to arrive early on Saturday. Already, they're telling you, get there early. November 30th to enjoy musical entertainment to be announced with a renewed focus on transforming the in-stadium fan experience. The LA Galaxy will extend their musical entertainment offerings throughout home matches, right? So we know that one. Soccer Fest is there. They have more playoff collections for merchandise, and then LA Galaxy Foundation stuff will be up there as well. And all this happens whenever the LA Galaxy face off against Seattle, coming up on Saturday at 7 p.m. and 7:10 p.m. is your kickoff time.
You know what we should do is we should just go out there with your ham and turkey and my Indian food and have Thanksgiving Thursday in the parking lot and just stay there until the start of the game. Arrive early. That's Thursday.
On Thursday, just show up a little Thanksgiving tailgate. Dude, there's nothing more American than a Thanksgiving tailgate. How about on Saturday you bring all your leftovers, you get it on the grill, you heat that up. I'm still want to try that.
Or bring it up to the press. Bring it up to the press box, especially if you have leftover pupusas.
Did you hear about the stuffing sandwich that I heard about? So
I think we were talking about it last week.
Maybe was it with you where you take the stuffing and you put it in like a waffle maker and you make it like each sides of the bread, and then you put your turkey and your mashed potatoes inside of it. And that's your turkey sandwich. Is a stuff. Man, it sounds great. Randy, by the way,
we will. You and I will take. We should just be bold. We'll take Thanksgiving leftovers. Meat for you, vegetarian for me. Just bring them by.
Randy, by the way, says I'm going to end up with like 20 towels at this point. Championship problems, Randy. Championship problems.
You know what? They make these every year, and they just haven't used them for a while, so they got a whole bunch of them.
Fried turkeys. If you fry turkey, please be careful. I'm all for it, by the way. I think you should be a little dangerous on Thanksgiving.
Whatever happened to turducken?
Listen, things don't cook well inside of a turkey. Doesn't anybody? Yeah, we all know this, right? This is why everybody's like, don't put your stuffing in the turkey. By the way, put your stuffing in the turkey. Live dangerously. Just make sure it goes to the appropriate temperature.
We tried that tofu turkey one Thanksgiving, vegetarian, and it was. Let me tell you, it was horrible. It was so bad that nobody even wanted to take it as leftovers. And myself and Mrs. Panda, we don't know what happened to it. It's somewhere in this house.
Oh, it's still?
And we just don't. This was years ago. We're gonna find it someday.
That's not
and,
good.
Maybe it'll taste better after like 11 years.
That's not good. Let's see. I'm looking at all the other stuff. I mean, here it is, Kevin. We've talked a little bit about the game. We talked about Seattle. The Galaxy, as far as we know, are 100% healthy. We expect that will come out. That'll be on Wednesday. So on Twitter and all the social media apps, I will try to put out the updates from media day, the media availability that day, so you can understand what's going on. Weather right now, at least early on, looks great. I don't think there's going to be any issues with that. That's going to be a fun night. Not only that, but it's a true night game. It's a Saturday night game. There's going to be more people in the stadium on this Saturday night, than there will be for last Sunday, yesterday night, as we were doing this. So,
well, let me talk a little bit about, if I can talk for a moment about Seattle. Because I've seen them a lot this year. It's actually one of my favorite MLS teams, partly because I love the city of Seattle, and also because their media relations staff, they are number one. They're great. So whenever I need an MLS quote or need to check something, I always go to Seattle because they're helpful. So I know a little bit about the team. They loved the weather Saturday. It was a little overcast. It was cold. It was kind of misty. They thought it was Seattle weather, and of course they beat LAFC. But the game with the Galaxy, the weather will be better. It'll be a neutral weather, which favors the Galaxy. This is really a case of sort of the unstoppable object against the immovable force, or however that goes. Because Seattle had the best defense in the league. They gave up only 35 goals this season. Stephen Fry, who will be in goal in this game, he had 11 shutouts. He had 8 games where he gave up 2+ goals. He only gave up 3 goals. That was the most he gave up in any game this season. There were 10 games when he gave up 1 goal. So look at that. 21 of his 29 starts, he gave up 1 or fewer goals. His goals against average was .99. He had a career playoff high 10 saves against LAFC all in the second half. So this is a team that is going to be we would think, very difficult to score against. They don't give up goals. Here's a Galaxy team that all they do is score goals. They're averaging 5 goals a game in the playoffs. So this is kind of one of those matchups where it's strength against strength. Seattle's strength is clearly its defense. They don't score a lot of goals. As we said, 3 goals in 3 playoff games. They had to win 2 in penalty kicks. And if Nuhu doesn't come back, we're going to have Jonathan Bell trying to mark or trying to stop Gabriel Peck. That's going to be a difficult assignment for anybody, but especially for a guy who hadn't started many games this year and hadn't played in the playoffs at all until the LAFC game when he had to play because Nuhu didn't show up. He was sick. And the other thing that Seattle has going for it, because the seeds coming out of the East are so high, there were so many upsets in the East. You know what? Seattle's playing for home field advantage in MLS Cup too. If they win, they get to host MLS Cup in Seattle. It'll probably be a terrible weather day. That's something that would really favor them.
Right.
So they have not just to win the Western Conference, but if they win the Western Conference, they go home to play MLS Cup. They have an awful lot to play for. They're one of the hottest teams in the league right now. Brian Spetzer really turned this team around in midseason, and it's going to be. We thought Minnesota was going to be difficult. This one, I think, really does look it's going to be hard.
Angelino, $2 super chat. Any 2024 MLS Cup champs merch, we are ready. After the game, gotta wait for Saturday. Don't count your chickens. Mashed potatoes
or turkeys.
Yeah, Scott, by the way, $5 super chat. Mashed potatoes or yams. Get your checkups. Geez, happy Thanksgiving, Scott. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're enjoying everything. And mashed potatoes or yams. Get your mashed potatoes or yams, Kevin.
Yams.
Wrong
Although
answer.
I did mistake the tortillas for mashed potatoes.
The whitest thing you could. I'm the whitest guy you would ever know. And Kevin goes, "Are those mashed potatoes?" And I go, "No, those are tortillas." Right? And I go, Jesus. And I go, that's the whitest thing I've ever heard. That had the dining room laughing. So that was good. Good job, Kevin. Tortillas look like mashed potatoes. By the way, both delicious. So I'm not going to get on you too much about that. I'm a big fan of either the tortilla or the mashed potatoes. And the LA Galaxy going with tacos on during the play. Coincidence? Kevin Acevedo, if you're listening, do it again. Tacos, double it up, baby. Double it up. It's where it's at.
Where's Emma Malia? She's got to come out and sing the national
She's like
anthem.
27 now. Okay,
Yeah.
so I don't know that you can keep requesting her anymore. I think she's done. She went to college. She had a career in in off Broadway theater, and now she's done. That's where she is now. That was so long ago. I don't know where this came from in the chat room, by the way, but they're doing Greg Vanney taught me things. Like Greg taught me how to grill a steak. Greg Vanney taught me how to order sushi in Japanese. Greg Vanney taught me how to change out a carburetor. Greg Vanney taught me what to do in Bangkok. Greg Vanney taught me how to pick out the perfect cologne. So this is what I don't know where it's coming from. I'm just here for it. I just want to say, I just want to tell everybody in the chat room that I love you and that I appreciate you and that I'm glad that you were in this weird place that you're in. However it is, whatever you want to do. I'm glad that you were there.
Speaking of the national anthem, when I went to Nashville for the NHL playoffs several years ago, there was a guy that used to sing the national anthem in every home game. He was just their national anthem guy, and everybody loved him. He was a character. He's kind of a mascot. They get to the playoffs. It's Nashville, and all of a sudden, all these country music stars are coming out of the woodwork. Gee, sure would love to sing the national anthem at the NHL playoff game. So guess what happened to the mascot? Shoved aside, and all these Shania Twain and all these other people come out to sing the national anthem.
Okay, Gary says it's because Paintsel said how he's like a father, right? So that's the tie-in there. So Greg Vanney taught me, Greg Vanney taught me how to shave. Greg Vanney taught me how to podcast.
How to ride a bike.
Yep, how to ride a bike, how to pick up women. Like all the stuff that Greg Vanney normally does. So we'll have to if this all goes the way that it certainly seems to be heading right now. And I will tell you this right now, on Polymarket, LA Galaxy now a 50% chance of winning MLS Cup, according to Polymarket. By the way, I would agree. And I also agree that probably the second place team is New York Red Bulls. I think the Red Bulls are going to beat Orlando. I'm ready for it. Here it comes. By the way, if they don't, and Orlando City makes it, Oscar Pareja is Oscar Pareja is like one of my favorite coaches in Major League Soccer. And I was talking with Charles Boehm beforehand, who's I'm glad to say is a good friend, was out visiting from DC to cover the game, and so got to talk to him for a little bit. But we were talking about Oscar Pareja. I'm like, man, that guy could get fired tomorrow and he would have another MLS job 10 minutes later. Like, just an amazing coach, and everything else that he does. So
there are 3 openings in MLS right now, by the way.
Yeah,
Philadelphia, Inter Miami, and Vancouver now.
Oscar Pareja ain't going nowhere because he's got Orlando pointed in the direction he finally figured it out. Everything's going the way, so it's just really interesting. But the Galaxy are favorites. We talked a little bit to Greg Vanney about that in the post game, which was sort of like, you went from underdogs to favorites. Do you feel that? And he goes, there are no such things as favorites in Major League Soccer. Correct answer. He's completely wrong, but good, correct answer for a coach who is trying to get his team to focus on Seattle. It's vital for the LA Galaxy to focus on Saturday, and that's it. I don't think they'll have a problem doing it. I don't. But if you look ahead, if you let Thanksgiving get in the way, it doesn't matter. Nothing matters right now except I'll go with Joe Tatino, 100%, which, by the way, Joe Tatino is an LA Galaxy legend. He needs to be with this club as long as there's a club and as long as he's willing to do it. So it's always nice to see Joe. We see him before almost every game. He comes up and talks to us. I appreciate his mentorship at every turn more than anything. I mean, I usually have to teach Kevin stuff, but Joe teaches me things. So that's nice.
When you talk about the Greg Vanney memes, it's kind of interesting because we say this all the time. We talk to Tom Braun, Will Kuntz, the people at the stadium, the PR people. We told Dan Beckerman that the difference between last year and this year, and not just around the club, but the way that we are treated and the way that people share with us and the people are cooperative with us is night and day from last year.
Yes.
And again, I just want to go back to 16, 18 months ago. Fans were boycotting games. They wanted most of the dysfunctional front office fired. It was a bad situation. We both asked Greg at the end of last season, are you still the guy to lead this team forward? It was a fair question. And he answered it like it was. He didn't think we were taking a shot at him. And now you look, there's memes of Greg Vanney. There's 27,000 fans in the stadium. There's rally towels. There's it's amazing. I don't think I've ever gone through it. I'm almost getting the bends just thinking about it. It's gone from the cellar to the penthouse. Like, this is the elevator at the Empire State Building just shooting up.
Right. There should have been an acclimation period. We're rising to the top too fast. It's hard to catch your breath and all that.
Right. You're exactly right. The team should have won 14 or 15 games and got 2 rounds into the playoffs. They don't go from 8 wins to the MLS Cup final at home.
Just remember, Greg Vanney, not an MLS Coach of the Year finalist. Just nope. Wanted to point it out. All of the finalists are gone, by the way. They didn't do anything. But Greg Vanney, nope, not that guy. Gonna have possibly one of the most prolific offenses in MLS playoff history. Didn't make Coach of the Year.
Yeah, and Will Kuntz signs 9 of 11 starters on a team that could make the MLS Cup final. Executive of the Year, nope. No, not good enough.
Philip, by the way, wins the show here. $5 super chat. Greg Vanney showed me how to go shirtless under a sweater. Do you remember? Was that in Seattle?
Ooh,
I think that
yes,
was the Seattle one,
It was
right?
Seattle. Yes.
I was the one that confirmed that Greg Vanney was indeed wearing a sweater because afterwards we had the Zoom call and you could see the sweater clearly, but it looked like it was a stained skin. I wonder if another thing we need to write down and talk to him, should this all go correctly at the end of the season. Hey, did you know that everybody thought you didn't have a shirt on in Seattle? Like, everybody was like, Greg Vanney, does he have a scarf on and no shirt on in Seattle? He's out there just, freeing the nipples on, under that jacket. Like, that was funny.
He was cavemaning it.
He was, absolutely, Philip. I appreciate you. It is good. It is always fun. So anyway, that's where we sit with the LA Galaxy coming up against Seattle. I'm going to say the same thing that I did against Minnesota. And this goes back to, I think it was 2011 or 2012, and I think I've told the story multiple times now. There was a guy who used to sit where I had my season tickets down in section 108. And before every game, he would stand up and he would turn around. I was like 4 or 5 rows behind him. He was turning around and he would yell at me and we would talk about things. Like, he would be like, hey, what do you think of this team? Going into, I think, either 11 or 12, they're playing Houston, so it could have been either one. He goes, Houston. He goes, what do you think? Can these guys really beat the LA Galaxy? I'm like, I don't know, man. They got Brian Ching out there. He goes, Brian Ching? Brian Ching? That's what you're going to come with me? Brian Ching? He goes, this is the LA Galaxy. They got Landon Donovan, David Beckham, and Robbie Keane. And he goes on, Marcelo Sarvis and Juninho. He goes, and ultimately he's pointing to something which we call the talent gap, right? There's a talent gap eventually. I'm telling you right now that you go and look at Seattle, and there's a talent gap. And doesn't mean that Seattle isn't a good team. But looking at what the LA Galaxy, remember, the Galaxy got 4 points off Seattle, undefeated on the season, played them a little earlier in the season. Seattle got hot. Seattle's the hottest team after Leagues Cup, right? That's the hottest team in Major League Soccer after Leagues Cup. So they had a second half, or second third, we should call it, the final third, that really propelled them to where they are. We can go back and look at the LA Galaxy, winning 1-0 over Seattle earlier this year. That's an early game. You have to go a long way back to find when the LA Galaxy beat them at home. In fact, you have to go all the way back to 2018 for that to happen outside of this year, right? So Seattle's had the LA Galaxy's number. This harkens back to the times. 2010, 2011, 2012, sort of when Seattle comes into the league, they automatically start making the playoffs. All of a sudden, there's a battle. Every Western Conference final is the LA Galaxy versus Seattle Sounders. You knew it was going to happen. You knew it was going to be there. This harkens back to that time. And that's what we're going to see. We're going to see a revitalization of a rivalry that was one of the tops in Major League Soccer. And you're going to see it on Saturday night. Seattle absolutely can beat the LA Galaxy. You want to have an off night against Seattle, Kevin? Seattle will just beat you. They know how to manufacture wins when there is none. They did it against LAFC. They could do it against the LA Galaxy. So, and by the way, it would be very much within Brian Schmetzer's sort of work, his way about going things to throw a wrinkle in and really get the Seattle team to find something.
And they are not going to be overwhelmed by the moment. Did you know when they played the game with LAFC, that was the conference semifinals? That was the 14th time in 16 years they made it to the conference semifinals. Brian Schmetzer's been on the sidelines for every single one of those playoff series. So this is almost an extension of the regular season. They just figure this into the schedule when they start out the year.
What an atmosphere on Sunday night. Just last night as we were going, it was fun. I saw somebody saying, "Man, I told everybody I knew that the LA Galaxy won last night," and he's like, "Nobody cared," and I didn't care that they didn't know. They didn't know. It wasn't even a thing, right? And I went in and into the office today, and I was just like, "Man," I go, everybody's like, "How was your weekend?" I'm like, "I got to go to an LA Galaxy game. I got to watch soccer. I got to see this atmosphere that was electric and fun, and for everybody who was at Dodger games for the World Series and everything you said, I mean, that's a playoff atmosphere. What was at Dignity Health Sports Park is every bit of a playoff atmosphere that you want in soccer anywhere around the world. It was loud, it was boisterous, it was fun, it was exciting, and the LA Galaxy hearkened to the Showtime Lakers putting on a show for this crowd. Greg Vanney said the guys like to put on a show. That's the first time I think we've heard him say that this year, Kevin, is that his guys like to put on a show for the crowd. So when the crowd is there, they're showing up, they're loud, they want to entertain. I tweeted out, "Are you not entertained? The LA Galaxy want to entertain." This is the Showtime LA Galaxy. I don't know if we're Tiki Taco right now. I think it might be Showtime LA Galaxy because I don't know that we've seen an offense like this. And it's funny that the Showtime Lakers, one of the main key playmakers, that Magic Johnson is a co-owner of LAFC, and they're not in the playoffs anymore.
He doesn't even know where that stadium is. He keeps talking about his Dodger ownership and LAFC owner. He has no idea where those stadiums are.
I bet he shows up every once. He gets tickets anytime he wants, though. That's for sure.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, sure.
But anyway, that's where we sit. All right, we are done. Kevin, do you have any requests for Christmas songs? One is, I would like to point out that should the LA Galaxy win an MLS Cup, I will have "'Twas the Night Before Christmas," the LA Galaxy version. And just to start that off, "'Twas the night before Christmas when all through the house not a kit man was stirring, not even a mouse. The boots were hung by the locker with care in hopes that Bruce Arena soon would be there." So this is an old school one, right? This was way back in the day. So I may have to update that if we get past that. So that's one of the things. Is there a Christmas song that you thought was?
We're limited to Christmas. I mean, so this is just one. No Kwanzaa. We can't do Hanukkah.
Okay, first of all, let's be honest. There is one good Thanksgiving song. Adam Sandler wrote it. And there is one good Hanukkah song, really, and Adam Sandler wrote it.
Yeah.
So that's where we're at right now. And I don't think that I can sing the Adam Sandler songs on a kid-friendly podcast, which we are. Even though there's some innuendo, we are a kid-friendly podcast. So is there anything that you would like? I mean, the Wham, Last Christmas is a pretty strong contender. I have to imagine.
Since your wife hates the hippopotamus song so much,
you want that one?
I guess I'd go with that one. Yeah.
Okay. Let me. I don't know all the words to it, so I have to look it up. I know like just the part that annoys my wife. I want a hippopotamus for Christmas. Let's see. Do we have lyrics? Where's the lyrics? Lyrics. History. We have the history of it. By the way, the B-side of that record was "Are My Ears On Straight?" Released in November 11th, 1953. Let's see. Apparently, that's not going to give me. Let's see. I want a hippopotamus for Christmas. And lyrics. All right, here we go. I want a hippopotamus for Christmas. Only a hippopotamus will do. I don't want a doll, no dinky tinker toy. I want a hippopotamus to play with and enjoy. I want a hippopotamus for Christmas. I don't think Santa Claus will mind, do you? He won't have to use our dirty chimney flute. I may have lost the thing. Just bring him through the front door. That's an easy thing to do. Now that's
now
see,
on Christmas,
Mrs. Panda's in here.
Sleeping down the stairs. Oh, what joy and surprise when I open my eyes
to see my hippo hero standing there. Yep. Okay. I think that does it. I think that's good. That wonderful Mrs. Panda comes in. By the way, tell Mrs. Panda that she's way better than you have ever been. Just
yes, and that's her favorite song. So I thought it was funny that your wife hated it.
Oh, my wife hates it, and she loves it.
Yeah.
Okay, that's another reason why I like your wife better than you. So because it's a standard one. I like it that Alexis goes, "I just got on. WTF is happening." So that's how this goes sideways. So anyway, if you
that's a keeper. This show is a keeper.
Yeah, Greg Vanney taught me how to sing "I Want a Hippopotamus for Christmas," just in case you're playing along. Thank you everybody for your super chats. Certainly appreciate it. And the surprise Mrs. Panda was amazing. So
what happens next week if they win? What do you get? What's the prize for next week?
I don't know. I mean, at one point I said I would do a show shirtless. I don't know.
Like Greg Vanney.
Yeah, like Greg Vanney. I'll just wear a jacket and no shirt. How about that? If we hit our goal next week, after we come back, the LA Galaxy have to beat Seattle in order for this to keep going. I'm not doing this for losses. I only do this for winners. But that's where we'll sit. Maybe I'll go shirtless. Yeah, encore. No, there will be no encores. That's it. That's all you get. I got to leave you wanting more and not any more than that. By the way, 7th and 8th grade choir. Did it show? Did it show a little bit? Second, by the way, 7th grade. Here it is. 7th grade, second soprano. 8th grade, alto. Right. So second soprano. I had the high voice. Then the voice changed between 7th and 8th grade, and I was an alto immediately. So that was it. So that's what we got. LA Galaxy 6-2 winners over Minnesota United. I hope you enjoyed that because that's one that I imagine we'll be talking about for years. That's not something that goes away. There's every once in a while, Kevin, your passport gets stamped, right? Like you're like, this is what you remember. You go back and you look in your book. You're like, yep, I remember when I went there. That's what that 6-2 win was. That was a passport stamp. You'll remember that one. You'll remember where you were.
you brought it up earlier. It's like the last memorable moment was the Lawton's first game, and now we have another memorable moment.
I mean, remember that the Galaxy beat Minnesota in the playoffs, right? To get to a...
Yeah, but it wasn't memorable. It wasn't like...
I agree.
And you keep talking about the atmosphere, and it was, and you can't talk about it enough. But I just want to go back again to the boycott. And Miriam Swanson, who was there from the Southern California News Group yesterday, she was my
seatmate, and she's awesome. I love her. I figured she could probably do a better job on this podcast than you two.
Well, probably.
Yeah.
But she's the one that wrote at that time that the Galaxy were whining about the boycott. And she wrote they should thank their lucky stars that they have a fan base that cares that much to boycott the team. The fans at that point said, this team is ours. And Greg Vanney and everyone in the Galaxy seconded that after the game Sunday when they said, we want to put on a show for the fans. Gabriel Peck said, we get energized by the fans. Those are the same fans that, last season boycotted the team because the team was not playing up to their standards. Things were dysfunctional. They weren't going the right direction. The fans should have been, and they were the ones celebrating what the fans, accomplished by getting the team here.
That was funny because Miriam said we were sitting in the press conference afterwards, and you brought that up that she wrote that article. She goes, I guess it worked, right? It was like here's somebody who's not here for every game, right? She doesn't cover all the games and the whole deal, but she's here, she's watching, she's there, she's locked in. By the way, just totally focused on everything that was going on. Unfortunately, she got sat between me and Damien, so she got to hear all of us cross talking and everything else that was going on, and she was involved in all this conversation. She locked in, locked loaded, and she was like, yeah, it worked. It worked. She saw it. She wrote the story about the boycott. She knows. Everybody knows what happens, right? And you saw it. Hercules Gomez tweeted out, I think afterwards, and I'll paraphrase. He says, but basically, the fans boycotted. They got change, and now look where the LA Galaxy are. Other fan groups take note. You don't have to settle. And
Paul Kennedy from Soccer America, Hall of Famer, tweeted out that he has never saw an MLS team re-energized by two players like Will Kuntz brought in Paintsel and Peck, and they just turned everything around. He said he's never seen two players come in one season and change a team like that. The Galaxy absolutely got those two right.
Let's see. Greg Vanney taught me how to be a substitute teacher in high school. Let's see. I was one more time. Greg taught me how to appreciate Kevin Baxter. That's nice. That's nice.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. Somebody likes you. Again, you have more fans than you think. I just don't want you getting a big head about it. Let's wrap this up, though.
That must have been a difficult lesson, though, teaching them how to appreciate me. How would you do that?
Lots of PowerPoint slides
and
some alcohol. I would imagine.
Yeah.
LA Galaxy, Seattle Sounders coming up. This is the Western Conference Finals, the latest the LA Galaxy have played in the calendar and now in progression-wise since 2014, 10 years ago, was the last time the LA Galaxy won an MLS title. Appreciate every moment of this week. Appreciate the butterflies. Appreciate the lead up. Appreciate your Thanksgiving. I hope everybody has a wonderful Thanksgiving, by the way.
You know where Gabriel Peck was last time the Galaxy played in an MLS Cup final? He was in grade school.
He was in grade school? That makes me feel great because I was not that old. I was 10 years younger the last time the LA Galaxy played in an MLS Cup final. How fun is that?
Yeah, so was I.
Yeah, that's how it works. Thank you, everybody, for the wonderful super chats. You guys are awesome.
You got your parking back.
Yeah, I did. I think I made it, so that's good. But no, we're glad to have everybody. I got approached at the game a couple times. People thanked me for what I do, and I do it because I love it. I would do it because even if you guys didn't listen, I would still do it. That's sort of the joke, is that I enjoy doing this. I enjoy covering the LA Galaxy. But it does mean a lot whenever you come up and say it. And I know it means a lot to Kevin and to Eric and to Sophie and to Alex and everybody else who's associated with the show and has been over the years. It means something whenever you guys say that, so we appreciate it, certainly.
Absolutely.
All right, Mr. Kevin.
That's what we're thankful for.
Yeah, that is what we're thankful. As a Thanksgiving, that is what we are thankful for. If you're going to go around the table, make sure. By the way, if you're going around the table this year, maybe drop in "I'm thankful for Corner of the Galaxy" and just see what your relatives say. Just stop, and they're like, "What is that?" And then you can explain it to them, and then maybe bring up the YouTube of me singing "I Want a Hippopotamus for Christmas." I don't know. Maybe that's how we get more listeners and everything else. All right. I think that about does it. Let's wrap it up. We did over 90 minutes here for a Monday night. This is your only podcast this week, so this one leads all the way up to the game. I hope if you're driving to the game and listening to us now, why did you wait so long to listen to it? But glad you're there, and hopefully you have fun.
And don't drive off the freeway when Josh starts singing.
Yeah, but please try not to swerve or do anything else. All right, if you're looking for Mr. Kevin Baxter on Twitter or Blue Sky, any of those places at kbaxter11, head on over there right away at latimes.com for all of Kevin's wonderful writings, whether it's hockey, whether it's soccer, whether it's boxing, or anything else that he does. Make sure you travel round with him as he writes for the LA Times. Always glad to have Kevin on the show. If you're looking for me on Twitter, Blue Sky, Threads was the other one. I remembered it. Threads. It's at Jay Guesman, and of course at Galaxy Podcast, cornerofthegalaxy.com, and of course anywhere you can find podcasts, you can find Corner of the Galaxy. Everybody, go follow, like, subscribe, smash that like button, right? That's what they say on all those videos. Go ahead, try it out. Let's see what we do. We appreciate all of you. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody. Be safe, be wonderful. See you at Dignity Health Sports Park on Saturday night, you wonderful, beautiful people. For Mr. Kevin the Panda Baxter, I'm Josh Pato Guesman, and you've been listening to Corner of the Galaxy from the box on cornerofthegalaxy.com. Mr. Michael Rajo, take it away.
You've been listening to the Corner of the Galaxy podcast on cornerofthegalaxy.com. You can follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Galaxy Podcast. And be sure to check out and subscribe to iTunes, Stitcher, and Facebook by searching for Corner of the Galaxy. Fans, we thank you for listening, and we ask that you be kind and courteous to your neighbors as you leave the podcast. We thank you for joining us and look forward to seeing you again. Until then, I'm Michael Arajo, and on behalf of the entire Corner of the Galaxy crew, goodbye.